Once upon a time in Lagos, there was a young prince named Adebayo. He was not like other princes, at least not in the way people thought. Everyone believed he was just a struggling mechanic working at Al-Haji Musa's garage in Mushin. But in reality, Prince Adebayo was the son of the Oba of Ikoyi, one of the richest traditional rulers in Nigeria. He had chosen to live like a common man in search of something money could not buy: true love. He had grown tired of women who only smiled at him because of his royal blood and wealth. So he left behind his palace, his royal robes, and his luxury cars. Every day he worked at the garage fixing old Toyota and Honda cars, earning just enough to buy eBay and soup. Down the street from the garage there was a small bukateria owned by Mama Kemi. She was a strict but hard-working woman who ran the restaurant with her daughter Funmi and her niece Aduni. Aduni had lived with her uncle's family since she was a small girl. She had lost both parents in a car accident when she was only 8 years old. Though her uncle had taken her in, Mama Kemi never treated her like family. Instead, she made sure Aduni worked harder than everyone else in the bukateria. Still, Aduni never complained. She loved cooking jollof rice, pepper soup, and pounded yam. Despite how she was treated, she remained kind-hearted and full of joy. Prince Adebayo started coming to the bukateria every afternoon for lunch. But there was something strange. He always ordered rice and beans without meat or fish. Aduni noticed it immediately. At first, she thought maybe he just didn't like meat. But after a few days, she began to wonder, was he avoiding it because he couldn't afford it? One afternoon, as Adebayo sat in the corner, quietly eating his plain rice, Aduni walked up to him. "Excuse me," she said softly. Adebayo looked up, surprised. "Yes." She hesitated, then smiled. "Why do you always buy food without meat?" Adebayo blinked. He hadn't expected the question. He stared at his plate for a moment before sighing. "I don't have money for meat." Aduni's heart squeezed. She had suspected it, but hearing him say it hit differently. He looked so tired, so worn out from work, yet he never begged or complained. "You're a mechanic, right?" she asked. Adebayo nodded. "Yes, I just started working recently. Things are hard." Aduni swallowed hard. She knew what it was like to struggle. That night when she lay on her mat, she couldn't stop thinking about the mechanic who couldn't afford meat. The next day when Adebayo came to the bukateria, something different happened. As Aduni served his food, she secretly added a piece of fried chicken to the plate. Then, as she placed it in front of him, she leaned down and whispered, "Don't tell anyone." Adebayo stared at the plate in shock. He looked up at Aduni, then back at the food. "Just eat," she said, giving him a small smile before walking away. Adebayo hesitated. No one had ever done something like this for him before. No one had ever cared when they thought he had nothing. He picked up the chicken, his throat tight with emotion, and took a bite. It was the best meal he had ever tasted. The next day it happened again. And the next. Every afternoon when Adebayo ordered his usual food, Aduni would quietly add a piece of meat to his plate. And every time, before walking away, she would whisper, "Remember, don't tell anyone." At first, Adebayo felt guilty. He didn't want her to get in trouble, but each time he tried to refuse, Aduni would shake her head and say, "Just eat." Slowly, something began to change between them. Adebayo started looking forward to lunchtime, not just because of the food, but because of her. He found himself watching Aduni more, noticing the way she smiled, the way she treated people with kindness, even when they didn't deserve it. She wasn't like any woman he had ever met in the palace. One evening, as the bukateria was closing, Adebayo waited outside. When Aduni stepped out, he cleared his throat. "I just wanted to say thank you," he said softly, "for everything." Aduni laughed. "It's just meat, Adebayo." "No," he said, shaking his head, "it's not just meat. It's kindness." Their eyes met, and for a moment there was silence. Aduni finally broke it with a playful smile. "Well, you can pay me back when you become a rich mechanic." Adebayo laughed, but deep inside her words stung. As he walked back to his small room in Agege that night, Adebayo realized something. This small act of kindness had changed everything. For the first time in his life, he had met a woman who cared about him when she thought he had nothing. The next day, Aduni was in the kitchen carefully placing a piece of goat meat into Adebayo's rice. She knew what she was doing was risky, but she couldn't help it. Adebayo was struggling, and she couldn't stand by and watch him suffer when she had the chance to help. As she picked up the tray, ready to take it to him, Funmi walked in. Her sharp eyes immediately landed on the plate of food. "Who are you serving that food to?" Funmi asked, folding her arms suspiciously. Aduni hesitated for a moment before sighing. "It's for Adebayo. I just pity him. Please don't tell Mama." Funmi's eyes widened in shock. "Adebayo? You mean that dirty mechanic?" Aduni nodded slowly. "Funmi, please. He doesn't have money for meat. I just wanted to help." "So you have a boyfriend now?" Funmi clapped her hands dramatically. "And not just any boyfriend, but a poor mechanic. Ah, Aduni, you have disgraced yourself." Aduni quickly placed the tray down and grabbed Funmi's arm. "Funmi, please don't tell Mama, I beg you." Funmi shook her off and laughed. "You think I will keep quiet? You are here stealing my mother's meat for a man, and you think I won't talk." Before Aduni could stop her, Funmi ran out of the kitchen shouting at the top of her voice, "Mama! Mama! Come and see what Aduni is doing!" Mama Kemi stormed into the kitchen like a raging lioness, her face twisted in fury. "What is all this noise?" she barked. Funmi pointed at Aduni, her voice filled with excitement. "Mama, come and see. Aduni has been stealing your meat to feed that mechanic. She even calls him Adebayo like they are husband and wife."
Aduni's heart pounded in fear. Mama Kemi's eyes flashed with anger as she turned to Aduni. "Is it true?" she demanded. Aduni's hands shook. "Mama, I was just helping him. He has no money for meat." A slap cut her off, sharp and stinging. Aduni stumbled backward, her vision blurring with tears. Mama Kemi didn't stop. She grabbed the plate from the counter and threw it to the ground. Rice scattered everywhere. The meat rolled across the floor. "You useless girl!" she screamed. "You are feeding a worthless mechanic while I am the one feeding you." "Shut up!" Mama Kemi said with a thunderous voice. "Follow me now." Aduni's legs felt weak, but she had no choice but to follow as Mama Kemi marched straight to the mechanic garage. The moment they arrived at the garage, all the workers turned to stare. Adebayo was busy fixing an old Peugeot when he heard angry footsteps approaching. He looked up just in time to see Mama Kemi storming toward him, dragging Aduni behind her. "Adebayo!" she shouted. Adebayo stood up quickly, confused. "Mama, what's wrong?" Mama Kemi threw a dirty rag at his feet, her face full of disgust. "You are what's wrong. Didn't I warn you to stay away from Aduni, but instead you are using her to steal from me?" Adebayo's face darkened. "I never stole anything," he said calmly, "and I never asked her to." "Shut up!" Mama Kemi screamed. "You are a useless man looking for a woman to feed you. If I ever see you near my bukateria again, if I ever hear that you spoke to Aduni, I swear you will rot in Kirikiri prison." Aduni's heart broke as she saw the hurt in Adebayo's eyes. Adebayo swallowed hard, clenching his fists. He had never been insulted like this before, but he knew he couldn't fight back. He turned to Aduni, his voice low. "It's okay," he said softly. "Don't cry." Mama Kemi dragged Aduni away while Adebayo stood there watching, powerless. That evening, when Mama Kemi got home, she told her husband everything. Aduni's uncle was furious. The moment she stepped into the house, he removed his belt. "Come here, Aduni," he commanded, in a voice that made her blood run cold. Tears streamed down Aduni's face as she slowly stepped forward. The belt landed hard on her back, burning through her thin dress. He flogged her again. She bit her lip, trying not to scream. "You are too young to have a boyfriend," her uncle shouted, "and of all people, you pick a poor mechanic." Tears ran down Aduni's face. "He is not my boyfriend. I only helped him." He flogged her again. Aduni felt her world falling apart. That night, Aduni lay on the cold floor, her back aching from the beating. She cried softly, her body shaking with pain. "Mama, Papa, please come and save me," she whispered into the night, her voice weak and broken. She had no one to protect her. A week had passed since the incident at the Bukateria. Aduni and Adebayo had not seen or spoken to each other. Mama Kemi watched Aduni closely, making sure she did not go near the garage. But fate had other plans. One evening, when Mama Kemi and Funmi went to visit a relative, Aduni saw an opportunity. She quickly left the house and hurried to the back of the garage, where she knew Adebayo usually rested after work. When she arrived, she found him sitting on a wooden bench, looking tired but deep in thought. The moment he saw her, his face lit up. "Aduni," he said softly. She smiled, relieved to see him again. "Adebayo, I've missed you." Adebayo stood up and took her hands in his. "I thought I would never see you again." Aduni shook her head. "I was being watched. I had to be careful." Adebayo sighed. "I understand, but I'm glad you're here now." They stood there in silence for a moment, just staring at each other as if the whole world had disappeared. Then Adebayo took a deep breath. "Aduni, I have something to tell you." She nodded. "What is it?" Adebayo's voice was low but full of emotion. "I love you." Aduni's heart skipped a beat. "I have loved you from the moment I saw you," Adebayo continued. "You are kind, strong, and different from any woman I have ever met. I don't have much now, but one day I will give you the best life. I want to marry you, Aduni." Aduni's eyes widened in shock. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out at first. Adebayo waited anxiously. "Please say something," he whispered. Finally, she sighed and held his hands tightly. "Adebayo," she whispered, "I love you too." Adebayo's face broke into a smile. "You do?" Aduni nodded. "Yes, but we need to slow down." Adebayo frowned slightly. "Slow down?" She took a deep breath. "Adebayo, you are still struggling. You are still learning how to repair cars. I just think, before we talk about marriage, you should at least finish learning, or better still, own your own garage." Adebayo was silent for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "You're right," he said. "I need to stand on my own feet first." Aduni smiled. "And when you do, I will be here." Adebayo felt hope fill his heart. He was about to say something when his phone rang. He checked the screen and sighed heavily. "Who is it?" Aduni asked. "My landlord," Adebayo muttered. He answered the call, and Aduni watched as his expression changed from calm to worried. When he ended the call, he looked at her and shook his head. "What happened?" she asked. Adebayo rubbed his forehead. My landlord says I have a few days to pay my rent, or he will evict me. Aduni felt a sharp pain in her heart. Oh, Adebayo, I wish I could help, but I have no money, she said sadly. Adebayo smiled gently and touched her face. Of course, I know you don't have money, my love. Don't worry, I will borrow from a friend. Aduni looked at him, feeling both sad and proud. Despite everything, Adebayo never complained or blamed her. She took his hands again. I just pray things get better for you soon. Adebayo nodded. They will. I won't give up. That evening, Aduni sat on her small mat, her heart heavy. She couldn't stop thinking about Adebayo and the way his face had fallen when he told her about his landlord's call. How would he pay his rent? Where would he go? She had to do something. She couldn't just sit back and watch him suffer. Her uncle was a wealthy trader. He always had lots of money lying around the house. He would never notice if a small amount went missing. The thought of stealing made her stomach turn. But was it really stealing if she was helping someone? She waited until the house was quiet. Mama Kemi and Fumi were gossiping in the backyard, and her uncle was out drinking palm wine with his friends. She tiptoed into his room, her heart pounding. There on the table was a bundle of Naira notes, wrapped with a rubber band. She grabbed a few notes, just enough to cover Adebayo's rent, and quickly hid them in her wrapper. Her hands were shaking as she left the room. The next morning, Aduni left the house early. She hurried to the garage, looking around to make sure nobody saw her. Adebayo was standing outside when he saw her. He smiled. Aduni, you came. She pulled him aside, her eyes darting around. Adebayo, I have something for you. She reached into her wrapper and pulled out the money. Adebayo's smile faded. What is this? He asked, confused. It's for your rent, Aduni whispered. Take it before your landlord throws you out. Adebayo stared at the money, then at her. Aduni, where did you get this? Aduni bit her lip. She didn't want to lie to him. I took it from my uncle. Adebayo was shocked. You stole it? Aduni nodded slowly. Adebayo's face darkened with disappointment. He pushed the money back toward her. Aduni, I can't take this, he said firmly. Why? She asked, feeling hurt. Because it's not yours, Adebayo said. Stealing is wrong, no matter the reason. Aduni's eyes filled with tears. But I did it for you. I didn't want you to suffer. Adebayo sighed. I know, my love, but this is not the way. If you get caught, what will happen to you? Aduni looked away. She knew he was right, but she had just wanted to help. Adebayo gently held her hands. Please, quickly and quietly return the money before anyone notices it's missing. Aduni nodded slowly. I won't do it again. Adebayo smiled a little. Good. Now go before you get into trouble. Aduni turned and left, her heart heavy. She never imagined that when she got home, trouble would already be waiting for her. Aduni stepped into the house, trying to act normal, but the moment she entered the living room, she stopped. Her uncle was there, his face dark with anger, his belt was in his hands. Aduni's stomach dropped. Her uncle's voice was sharp. Aduni, come here. She slowly stepped forward. I kept money on the table last night. This morning it disappeared. I have asked my wife. I have asked my daughter. Nobody took it. Aduni's legs felt weak. I don't know. A loud slap landed on her cheek before she could finish. Liar! Her uncle roared. She staggered back, her face stinging. Her uncle grabbed her and searched her wrapper, Before she could react, he pulled out the money. The room fell silent. Mama Kemi gasped loudly. Fumi's eyes widened. Her uncle's hands shook with rage. "So it's you," he said, his voice dangerously low. "You, the orphan I took into my house. This is how you repay me?" Aduni fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Uncle, I'm sorry, He did not let her finish. He raised his belt and flogged her again. Aduni screamed in pain. "You are a disgrace," her uncle shouted. "I wish you had died with your parents. Maybe my life would have been better without you." Aduni's heart shattered. Mama Kemi just watched, her arms crossed. Her uncle kept flogging her, insulting her, calling her names. Then he stopped. The room was silent except for Aduni's soft sobs. Her uncle dropped his belt and took a deep breath. "In 3 days," he said coldly, "I will marry you off to Alhaji Sikiru." Aduni's head snapped up. "No! Please, uncle, don't do this," she cried, crawling toward him. "I promise I won't steal again." Her uncle kicked her away. "I don't care if you don't like him. You must marry him. I will not waste my money feeding a useless thief in my house." Aduni sobbed harder. Her uncle turned to Mama Kemi. "Make sure she does not leave this house until her wedding day." Mama Kemi nodded. Then her uncle dragged Aduni by the arm and pushed her into a room. He locked the door from outside. Aduni rushed to the door and banged it. "Please let me out, uncle. Please don't do this to me." No one answered. She sank to the floor, shaking with fear. In 3 days, she would become the wife of a terrible old man. There was no one to save her, not her dead parents. 2 days had passed and Adebayo had not seen Aduni. She didn't come to the bukateria. She didn't come to see him at the garage. At first he thought maybe she was busy. Maybe her aunt had given her extra work at the restaurant. But by the second day, he knew something was wrong. His heart was restless. He couldn't eat. He couldn't focus on work. He had a bad feeling. Had her uncle found out about them? Had they beaten her again? Adebayo couldn't wait any longer. He had to see her. He left the garage and went straight to Aduni's house. When he got there, he looked around. The compound was quiet. Mama Kemi and Funmi were not around. Her uncle was not in sight. It was the perfect time. Adebayo moved quickly to the side of the house where he knew Aduni's room was. As he got closer, he heard something, crying, soft, weak, heartbreaking. Adebayo clenched his fists. He stepped closer and tapped gently on the window. "Aduni," he whispered. The crying stopped for a moment. There was silence. Then slowly the window creaked open, and there she was. Adebayo felt his heart break. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her lips were dry. She looked weak, tired, broken. "Adebayo," she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. Adebayo held the window bars. "Aduni, what happened?" She wiped her tears with shaky hands. "They locked me in here." Adebayo's blood boiled. "Why?" he asked, trying to control his anger. Aduni took a deep breath, then whispered the words that made Adebayo's whole body turn cold. "They are forcing me to marry Alhaji Sikiru. The wedding is tomorrow." Adebayo felt like his heart had stopped. "Tomorrow? So soon?" "No," he said, shaking his head. "That will never happen." Aduni shook her head sadly. "Adebayo, I'm scared. My uncle said I have no choice." Adebayo's jaw tightened. He wished he could break the window, pull her out and run away with her. But he couldn't. Not yet. He took a deep breath and forced himself to stay calm. "Listen to me," he said. "You will not marry that man. I will make sure of it." Aduni stared at him, her lips trembling. "But how, Adebayo? You don't have money. You don't have power. What can you do?" Adebayo exhaled sharply. "I don't know yet. But I promise you, by tomorrow, you will be free." Aduni looked into his eyes, searching for hope. She had no choice. She had to believe him. I trust you, she whispered. Adebayo squeezed her hands. Good. Now stay strong. I will come back for you. Then, before anyone could see him, he left quickly. Adebayo walked back to his small room, his mind racing. This was getting out of control. Adunni was about to be married off like property. Her uncle had beaten her, locked her up. Her life was being destroyed, and he was powerless to stop it. Or was he? Adebayo stopped walking. This had gone on for too long. He had hidden his true identity for months, pretending to be a poor mechanic. But now Adunni's life was in danger. Enough was enough. He clenched his fists. This is getting too much, he muttered. He took a deep breath, then made a decision. I have to come out clean before it's too late. Tomorrow everything would change. Prince Adebayo, son of the Oba of Ikoyi, was about to reveal his true self, and he was going to save the woman he loved. Early the next morning, a shiny black Range Rover pulled up in front of Adunni's house. The engine purred softly, and the doors swung open. Adebayo stepped out. He was not in his usual mechanic clothes today. He wore a well-tailored agbada, polished shoes, and a gold wristwatch that gleamed in the sunlight. His presence alone commanded attention. Adunni's uncle, who had been sitting outside drinking his morning tea, froze in shock. Mama Kemi and Funmi came out of the house, their eyes widening when they saw Adebayo. Funmi gasped loudly, nudging her mother. "Mama, look!" she whispered. Adebayo walked up to Adunni's uncle, his steps slow and confident. He stood tall, looking him straight in the eye. "I am here to marry Adunni," he said, his voice strong and clear. Adunni's uncle scoffed, shaking his head. "You must be joking. Adunni is marrying Alhaji Sikiru today. You came here to stop it, but it won't work." Adebayo's jaw tightened. "I love Adunni, and I want to marry her. I am not here to beg. I am here to tell you that she is mine." Adunni's uncle burst into laughter. Mama Kemi and Funmi laughed too, holding their stomachs like they had just heard the funniest joke of their lives. "Adebayo, I know you," her uncle said, pointing at him. "My wife and daughter have told me so many things about you. I know how stupid and poor you are. I know you can't afford all these expensive clothes. I know you borrowed that car from one of your customers just to impress me." Adebayo said nothing, just stared at him with a blank face. Adunni's uncle continued, "You are here acting like a big man, but I know the truth. You are just a common mechanic. You want to deceive me to give you Adunni, but it won't happen. Alhaji Sikiru has already sent the dowry. You are wasting your time." Adebayo smiled slightly. "Try me and see," he said. "I told you I love Adunni and I want to marry her. And you are here talking nonsense. Do you even know who I am?" Adunni's uncle laughed even louder, clapping his hands. "You are a very foolish boy. You think you can trick me? You think I don't know what you are doing?" He turned to Mama Kemi. "Call the police. Let them come and take this fool away." Mama Kemi rushed inside and dialed the police. Within minutes, a police van drove in, sirens blaring. 4 policemen stepped out. Adunni's uncle smirked. "Now let's see how big you are, Adebayo," he said. He turned to the police and pointed at Adebayo. "Arrest this man. He is a liar and a fraud. He is trying to cause problems in my house." But the moment the police saw Adebayo, they froze. Their eyes widened. They quickly straightened and saluted. "Your Royal Highness! Good morning, sir!" they said in unison. Adunni's uncle frowned. "What is going on? Why are you greeting him?" One of the officers, looking confused, stepped forward. "Sir, why are we here? Who is the person to be arrested?" Aduni's uncle scoffed. "Are you blind? This is the man I called you for. Arrest him." The police officer hesitated, then turned to Adebayo. "Your Highness, is this true?" he asked respectfully. Adebayo smiled. "Yes, I am the one they called you to arrest." The police officer immediately shook his head. "No, sir, that can never happen. You are the son of our Oba. We can't arrest you, and you have done nothing wrong." Aduni's uncle froze on the spot. His body turned cold. "What?" he stammered. Mama Kemi and Funmi gasped loudly. Adebayo stepped forward and looked Aduni's uncle straight in the eye. "I told you. You don't know who I am." The police officers nodded respectfully. "Your Highness, if this man is disturbing you, we can take him instead," one of them offered. Adebayo smirked. "No need. He has already learned his lesson." The policemen saluted again, got into their van, and drove away. Aduni's uncle fell to his knees. "My prince, please forgive me," he cried, holding Adebayo's leg. "I did not know. I am sorry for everything." Mama Kemi, now shaking with fear, came forward and knelt beside her husband. "Prince Adebayo, please forgive us. We did not know you were royalty." Funmi, who had insulted Adebayo so many times, stood there speechless, her mouth open. Aduni's uncle wiped the sweat from his face and swallowed hard. "I will cancel everything with Alhaji Sikiru. Please, Prince Adebayo, forgive me. You can come with your people any time to marry Aduni." Adebayo put his hands in his pockets and smiled slightly. "Okay, no problem," he said calmly. Aduni's uncle quickly stood up and ran inside to call Alhaji Sikiru, telling him the marriage was off. Aduni, who had been watching everything from the window, ran outside to meet Adebayo. Tears filled her eyes as she hugged him tightly. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. Adebayo pulled her close and kissed her forehead. "I told you I would come for you," he said softly. "I love you so much, Aduni." Aduni wiped her tears and smiled. "I love you too, Adebayo." Adebayo cupped her face and looked into her eyes. "I will come in 2 days with my people. Be ready." Aduni nodded, her heart full of joy. Adebayo kissed her hands, got into his Range Rover, and drove off. As she watched him leave, she smiled for the first time in a long time. She was finally free, and soon she would be his forever. Adebayo drove into his father's massive compound in Victoria Island, his heart heavy but determined. The large mansion stood proudly before him, surrounded by neatly trimmed gardens and luxury cars parked in the driveway. He knew this conversation with his parents wouldn't be easy, especially with his mother, but he was ready to stand his ground. As he stepped into the grand living room, his mother, Olori Adunke, was sitting on the elegant sofa, sipping tea. His father, Oba Adeyemi, sat beside her, reading a newspaper. His mother smiled warmly when she saw him. "Adebayo, my son, what a pleasant surprise. You hardly visit these days. Sit down, let me get you something to drink." Adebayo remained standing, his face serious. "Mama, Baba, I came to talk about something important." His father folded his newspaper and looked up. "What is it, my son?" Adebayo took a deep breath. "I have found the woman I want to marry. Her name is Aduni." His mother's smile disappeared instantly. She placed her teacup down and gave him a sharp look. "Who is she?" Adebayo stood tall. "She is the woman I love. I have already spoken to her family, and in 2 days I want us to go and officially ask for her hand in marriage." His mother's face darkened. "Where is she from? Who are her parents?" Adebayo swallowed hard. "She is an orphan." His mother gasped loudly. "An orphan? From where? What kind of background?" Adebayo cleared his throat. She was raised by her uncle and his wife, but they never treated her well. She struggled all her life, working in their bukateria to survive, but she is hard-working, kind. And his mother raised her hand, cutting him off. "Enough," she snapped. "I will never allow you to marry a poor, uneducated orphan girl. Never." Adebayo clenched his fists. "Mama, what does her background have to do with love? I love her and she loves me. She makes me happy." His mother shook her head aggressively. "Love? Love does not pay bills, Adebayo. You are a prince. You need a woman from a wealthy, respectable family. A woman with quality education, class, and status. Not some local girl who has nothing." His father had been quietly listening, his face unreadable. But now he folded his arms and looked at his wife. "Let me ask you something, my dear wife," he said calmly. She turned to him, frowning. "What is it?" Oba Adeyemi smiled slightly. "Do you remember how we met?" Olori Adunke's face softened for a moment, then hardened again. "That was different." "Was it?" Oba Adeyemi asked. "You were just a trader's daughter from Mushin when I fell in love with you. My parents also rejected you at first, calling you unworthy of a prince." Olori Adunke's eyes widened. She had forgotten how much she had struggled to be accepted into the royal family. Oba Adeyemi continued, "But I fought for you because I loved you, and look at you now. You are a respected queen, a wonderful mother, and the love of my life." Olori Adunke was quiet, her anger slowly melting away. Oba Adeyemi turned to his son. "Adebayo, if this girl truly makes you happy and has a good heart, then she has my blessing." Adebayo's face lit up. "Thank you, Baba." Olori Adunke sighed deeply. "But what will people say? What will the other royal families think?" Oba Adeyemi took her hand. "My dear wife, love is more valuable than people's opinion. If she treats our son well and makes him happy, that is all that matters." Olori Adunke looked at her son's hopeful face, then at her husband's gentle expression. Finally, she nodded slowly. "Fine," she said, "but I want to meet her first. If I approve of her character, then we can proceed." Adebayo smiled broadly. "Thank you, Mama. You will love her, I promise." 2 days later, a grand convoy of cars pulled up in front of Aduni's house. The entire neighborhood came out to watch as Prince Adebayo stepped out with his parents, traditional drummers, and family members. Aduni wore a beautiful blue Ankara dress that Adebayo had sent to her. She looked radiant as she knelt to greet the Oba and his wife. Olori Adunke studied Aduni carefully. She watched how respectfully she spoke, how humbly she carried herself, and how her eyes lit up when she looked at Adebayo. During the traditional ceremony, Aduni served kola nut to the elders with grace. She answered all questions politely and showed deep respect for tradition. By the end of the day, even Olori Adunke was impressed. "She is well-behaved and respectful," she whispered to her husband. "I can see why our son loves her." The marriage rites were completed successfully. Aduni's uncle, who had treated her so badly, now bowed and scraped before her, calling her "Your Highness" and begging for forgiveness. 6 months later, Prince Adebayo and Princess Aduni had a grand wedding that was the talk of Lagos. The former mechanic's assistant had become a beloved princess, known throughout the kingdom for her kindness and humility. At the wedding reception, as they danced together, Aduni looked up at her husband with tears of joy in her eyes. "Thank you for saving me," she whispered. Adebayo smiled and pulled her closer. "Thank you for loving me when you thought I had nothing. That's how I knew you were the one." And so, the prince who pretended to be poor found the richest treasure of all, true love that wasn't based on wealth, but on genuine care and kindness. They lived happily ever after, ruling with wisdom and compassion, always remembering that the greatest riches in life cannot be bought with money.